Hello internet besties, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know that you guys have been seeing videos for the last like 3 weeks, but for me, I haven't picked up a camera in that amount of time. So it feels really good to be back. I'm so excited. I did return from Peru. I think I told you guys in maybe the last video or 2 videos ago that that's where I was headed. And now I'm reminiscing my Peruvian experience. There were lots of llamas, lots of anthropological things, and it was amazing. But now on to the reason that you're here. And that reason, or I think, is that I decided that I'm gonna be doing a fantasy reading vlog this week because the TBR wheel chose fantasy books for me to be reading. And we all know that I have a lot of respect for the TBR wheel. What it says goes. So there's 2 books that I know that I want to read in this video, and you guys have been begging me to read these, so let's just get into it. I don't know what order I'm gonna be reading these in, but the first book that I have to talk about is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book I feel like had its day in the sun a few months ago. There was a period on booktube where this was just going around. I feel like everyone and their mother was reading this book. I know that it's enemies to lovers. I pretty much don't know anything else. I think someone is like supposed to kill the other one or something. This seems like it's up my alley. I'm very excited about this one. And then the next book, I think this is the one that most of you guys have been like really pushing me to read. The next one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is a cozy fantasy, and I actually haven't read a ton of cozy fantasy up to this point. I feel like I tend to be more interested in high stakes, very action-packed fantasy, if that makes sense. But this is like a slower, cozier fantasy read about Emily Wilde, and I think she just like studies fairies and goes on a little adventure. We'll see if I get to any other books in this video. I did recently finish Heir of Fire in the Throne of Glass series, so I'm hoping to continue that series soon as well. So we're just gonna see what happens. I just wanted to say hello. I've returned from my international adventures, and it feels so good to be reading again and to be documenting it. So yeah, all right, I'll see you guys when I start the first book.
Tall buildings, as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun, as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, wanna dance to the light, pull the stars from the sky, just 2 hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop.
I just finished working and I went on a walk, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update on Powerless. I did start this book and I'm having a very interesting time reading this book. And I don't necessarily say that in a positive or a negative way. I just feel like so far this book is like the combination of popular tropes and aspects of every other YA fantasy book that I've read before, kind of like smushed up and put into one. But what's interesting about it is, even though I feel like so many things in this book I've read before, I've seen before, I've experienced before, I think the writing is great. And I also think the tension that's building between Peyton and Kai, our 2 main characters, is also so good. So right now, I like have no idea what I would rate this book because it doesn't feel like that new or fresh, but I'm eating up the tension and the romance. Anyway, those are my thoughts, but in terms of what this book is actually about, basically we follow our main character. Her name is Peyton, and in this world, people essentially, like, there was this plague, and after the plague happened, you either came out with extraordinary powers, like magical powers, mundane powers, like you're still magical but they're not like anything special. My battery's flashing, dang it. Or no powers, and essentially if you come out with no powers, you're at risk of getting killed. And our main girly, Peyton, she isn't ordinary. She has no powers, but she pretends that she does, and that's how she survives in this world. And then Kai, our male main character, he hunts ordinaries. He kills people like Peyton. Honestly, a perfect setup for a romantasy book. And basically the only other thing that I need to tell you before my battery dies is that there are trials in here. And I love trials in books. So I'm very excited to see how that goes. I'm currently on page 126 of this book, and I feel like things are just gonna pick up from here. I don't think this video is going up for a little while, but when I'm filming this, it's Tortured Poets Department release. I've been having a good few days. Anyway, I wanted to jump in and give you guys a little bit of a Powerless update. I have some, I don't know if this is bad news, but unfortunately this book has put me in a bit of a reading slump. I don't know if it's this book's fault or just like my own life, but I will say, I think I was getting to this in the last clip. This book just absolutely does not feel like anything new. The only thing that I really am enjoying in here is the tension and the buildup between Peyton and Kai. And don't get me wrong, that's like a lot of the book. So it's not like I'm not enjoying reading this. It's just every time I pick it up, I feel like I'm getting something that I've already experienced before. At least so far, it's still something that I would recommend. I think maybe that feeling that I have wouldn't bother other people as much, but it definitely is like bothering me and inhibiting me from feeling like this is like, I don't know, something that I would be obsessed with, which is unfortunate because I love romantasy and I really thought that this could be like a 5-star read for me. I'm so sorry if you guys can hear the construction going on. I've been trying to film all day today for my actual job and it's just, things are not going my way. Hear me out. The way that I would describe this book, if you know, you know, okay? It's like The Selection, but instead of people getting randomly chosen to compete for the prince's heart, they're competing for their lives with like some magic in there. Probably being ruder than this book deserves, but yes, that's all I have to say. I'll check in when I finish this book. Hello everybody, I think I'm wearing the same shirt as I was when I started this video. Ignore that. I have been doing a little bit of reading this afternoon and I wanted to pop in, and I think I put my finger on one of the things that I'm not loving about Powerless. I will say, as I'm approaching the ending, I'm really enjoying it a lot more. I really love the characters, again, the tension. But I think what bugs me just a little bit is like, things kind of just perfectly work themselves out like all throughout the book. The right information just happens to surface, or there's like a, you know, you're gonna die and you just happen to get saved in this like crazy unexpected way. And it just feels a little bit like Deus Ex Machina to me, which is basically this idea that like something bigger kind of came and saved the day. Certain things just like perfectly work out, and I would have liked the characters to have to work a little bit harder for that information, or for things to be just a little less perfect, because my suspension of disbelief is just like, it's too much. Yeah, but again, I am liking things otherwise. I'm enjoying it more, feeling more of the urge to pick the book up, but I do think that that's what I don't like. And I'm feeling really good that I figured that out. I did it! I finished this book, you guys, and I'm so glad. I feel like I was giving a lot of unnecessary hate. I just feel like there were certain things about this book that as I was reading them, I was having a hard time getting through them. I will say the last like 100 pages of this book really pick up. And it's fast the whole time, but again, the last 150 pages were so quick. It starts to go down. Like, I'm thinking to myself, how are these characters gonna get themselves out of these situations? They don't, you know? We still have more to go in this series. Everybody says that this book ends on a cliffhanger, and that is true. There is definitely more that we need to know. I think my final rating for this book is going to be a 3-star. There were things that I really loved. Like, as I said before, the romantic tension and the romantasy elements of this book I thought were perfect. I love Kai, I love Peyton, I love them together, the yearning. That was a 10 out of 10 for me. I just would get really stuck and fixated on all these things that I felt like I've seen before that just didn't feel very original, and how certain solutions to problems would just sort of fall in characters' laps. So I'm really sad because I know a lot of you love this book, and I know a lot of people love this book, and I wish that I was one of them. I think I will continue this series. I just know myself, and I'm probably gonna wanna know what happens next because things really did go crazy. I think the next time that I see you guys, I'll be picking up my next fantasy read, which will probably be Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. As you guys would have seen, I did start the next book for this video, and I'm pretty excited to be reading this. This is the book that you guys have been really hyping me up to read in the comment section, and I'm so excited. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is definitely a totally different fantasy vibe from Powerless. This is a very slow, chill, cozy fantasy read, and I'm honestly enjoying it. I feel like in the past I haven't really loved cozy fantasy all that much, but I'm having a pretty good time with this one, which I feel like is the biggest plot twist of this video. In my mind going into this video, I thought for sure that I was gonna like Powerless more, but I really don't know how this is gonna play out. Right now, I am about 82 pages into this book, and I feel like that is definitely far enough to give you a little synopsis. So in this book, we're following Emily Wilde, and she is a professor at Cambridge University. And you might have guessed from the title, she studies fairies. And she basically wants to be the first person to compose this entire encyclopedia of fairies. So centralize all the knowledge that they have about fairies. That's pretty much all I feel like you need to know going into this. That's like the very first few pages. So no spoilers here, I promise. And I just feel like the descriptions in this book are so beautiful. It's also written in a journal format. So we're reading this like Emily is writing in her journal, but you don't really notice that. Like after the like date is shown, it just feels like a normal story written in the first person. I think because this is different from a lot of other books that I've read, I don't exactly know how I feel about it yet. I know that I like Emily, I know that I like some of the other characters in this book, and I'm especially loving the setting, but in terms of my emotional response, I'm not really sure, so I'll probably update you guys when I'm a little bit further in. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this one, and I'm excited to bond with you all in the comments over this if you have read it, because I know that some of you have. page 198. So I've made some good progress in Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. And guys, I had the craziest epiphany. So I'm reading this book, and Emily Wilde, our main girl, is a researcher, an academia queen, if you will. And everything that she was doing, like her research methods, felt very anthropological to me, which is what I studied in college. I actually have a whole other YouTube channel. It's my main YouTube channel about anthropology, if you want to check that out. But she's like doing all these very anthropological research styles. I don't want to bore you, so I won't get into it. And I was like, I wonder if our author, Heather Fawcett, studied anthropology. So I read the blurb in the back of the book, and it literally says she has a master's degree in English literature and a bachelor in archaeology. Archaeology is a subfield of anthropology, which means that Heather Fawcett is familiar with anthropology, and I have never felt so good about my decoding abilities. I don't know if decoding is the right word, but like reading beyond the words, reading in between the lines, you know? Anyway, that felt really, really good. And I'm probably gonna think about that for days. Anyway, that aside, hopefully someone cares about that. I am definitely enjoying this book. It's a slower read, and slow doesn't mean bad. I never will preach that on this channel. However, there are times where something kind of big and exciting will happen, and I think in that moment I'll think that we're starting to really move towards something, or there's like gonna be a little more action and, you know, tension to build up to something, and we don't really get that afterwards. There's kind of these ebbs and flows of higher tension moments and lower tension moments, but nothing's too crazy. I'm enjoying it, but in those lower moments, I'm a little bit bored, just a little bit. But the writing is beautiful, and I love our characters. Like, they are just quirky little researchers, and I eat that up. So I'm loving the characters, I'm loving the writing. It's just so poetic. I'm eating that up. I love the setting. I think it's just the plot that is a little bit lacking for me, because I love a good plot-driven story. If you consider yourself the kind of person that's more into no plot, just vibes, another book that I would kind of describe that way is Circe by Madeline Miller. I feel like this would be a really good book for you, but if you really like action and a strong plot line, I don't know if I recommend this, but I'm definitely enjoying it. I'll let you guys know what I think when I finish. I finished! I'm so happy, and I also realized that I am unintentionally mashing the book a little bit, and I love when that happens. This book was honestly really, really fun. I don't even know what to say about it. The first thing that I wanted to mention, like I've been saying throughout this entire video, is this is absolutely a cozy fantasy through and through, but the end does get a little exciting, and I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of expecting chill vibes all the way through, but tension definitely started to pick up. There was a little bit of chaos that I really did not know how it was going to play out, and that was something that I really enjoyed, considering I tend to categorize myself as a more high stakes fantasy person. So I did really appreciate that. I think overall though, throughout reading this book, I did learn that cozy fantasy, at no fault of the genre, just isn't my personal favorite. Truly, I loved everything about this book. The characters were lovely. Emily is just a quirky, fun main character. I feel like in fantasy, we tend to read about these really beautiful, like highly agile fighter characters, you know, and sweet talkers even, I don't know. But in this book, Emily is very different from your stereotypical fantasy main character girl. She's a little awkward. She just likes to learn, not good at talking to people, all that kind of stuff, and that made this story stand out as a fantasy against like other fantasy books that I've read, and I really, really appreciated that quite a lot. With that said though, I loved the characters. I loved the setting. Was probably my favorite part about this whole book, the descriptions where we were taking place. It just felt like a cute little fairy world in the mountains, and I loved that. But because the plot was slow pretty much throughout the whole thing, I felt like it was preventing me from fully connecting with the aspects of the story that I did like. I don't know if that is going to make a lot of sense to people, but I just love plot-driven stories. And so I think I'm going to give this book a 3.5 stars because, again, I loved so much about it. It was a really, really good book. I just didn't feel as connected to it because of what I felt the plot lacked. And I think that's going to be the end of this video. It feels really, really good to get these two books off my TBR. They've been on my physical TBR and my mental TBR for a really long time. So because I finished them, I would definitely consider this video a success. Rating wise, we had a 3 and a 3.5, which isn't like, you know, I've had higher ratings in reading vlogs before, but again, I am really glad that I understand what the hype is about. And ultimately, the takeaway from this video is these are still really great fantasy books. I think I'm just really picky. I don't know. A fantasy to get a high rating for me, because I've read so many, really needs to have very specific elements. And these were still great. I still think you should read them. Thank you to the people who recommended these to me. Also, real quick, before I close this video out, I did want to mention that I work for a childhood literacy and education nonprofit. And if you guys are interested in donating to their work, I am gonna link that donation link down below. Don't forget to leave your name in your comments so I can get to know you guys better, because community is truly my favorite part of this YouTube channel. And I think that's it from me. I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, you guys, bye.